Uncanny Japan is author me, Teresa Matsura, exploring all that is weird from Japan. Strange superstitions and old wives' tales, cultural oddities and interesting language quirks. These are little treasures I dig up while doing research for my writing, and I want to share them with you here on Uncanny Japan. I hope you like the show. Hey everyone, this is Terry, and this is the In-Between podcast, the extra podcast, the bonus podcast, so to speak. So today on Uncanny Japan, I'm going to try something a little different. I'm going to read to you my reimagining of a famous Japanese folktale, Kachi Kachi Yama, or Kachi Kachi Mountain. The closer to the original, yet still my reimagining of the story, with 100% more cannibalism, is over on Patreon as extra content for my patrons. But for now, let me read you a bedtime story, Kachi Kachi Mountain. Mukashi mukashi, long, long ago in Japan, there was a village with no name. It lay cradled in a lush and verdant valley, so remote one had to walk 3 days in any direction to find the nearest town. Whether from its seclusion, no one knows for sure, but it is told that the villagers were special. Every single one of them was cheerful and hard-working and never complained at all. They were genuinely happy. That was until one crisp autumn day when their luck changed. A wicked and mischievous tanuki was wandering through the hills and noticed the village and the sweet nature of the people living there. Interesting. He scaled a large crooked persimmon tree to rest and further observe the villagers. But the longer he watched, the angrier he got. All these simple-minded people smiling, helping each other, and getting along, peaceful. The tanuki grew indignant and decided something needed to be done. Life was unpredictable and harsh. Frittering about so content and merry was a dumb and dangerous way to live. These placid bumpkins needed to be taught a lesson, and he was just the tanuki to do it. The animal curled up on a branch and fell asleep while hatching up his plan. The tanuki was no fool. He woke early the next morning and snuck into the fields. Sure no one was watching, he proceeded to take a single bite out of every vegetable he could get his paws on, every carrot, every eggplant, every zucchini. The tanuki had an enormous appetite. After he finished, stomach full and anger somewhat quenched, he burped loudly, climbed back into the persimmon tree, and watched as the villagers woke and reacted to his trick. Men and women cried out and shook their heads. Children whimpered and clung to their parents. What would they do? The fall's harvest was ruined. The tanuki held tight his fat belly, kicked his stubby legs, and laughed. His mood only changed when the villagers came to the conclusion the damage had been done by rabbits. Rabbits. The tanuki smirked. Rabbits. Old Lady Tora squealed. Old Lady Tora was the wife of Old Man Saburo and was thought to be slightly soft in the head. Everyone in the village turned to the mild-mannered woman, looking absolutely timid except for her wild white hair that fell messily about her shoulders and all the way down to her waist. The tanuki, too, narrowed his eyes and pricked his ears to listen to what she had to say. Little bunnies would never do such a thing, Old Lady Tora insisted. They're soft and friendly and kind. They come to me when I'm alone. The villagers exchanged glances and nervously shuffled their feet in the dirt. My best friend is a bunny, she added. I call her Usa-chan. The gathered crowd whispered uncomfortably, and Old Man Saburo was encouraged to take his lovely wife home to get some rest, which he did. The next day, sure that his wife, Old Lady Tora, was calm and not having another episode, Old Man Saburo headed to his rice field to think. Rice being a difficult crop to damage by simply taking a couple bites, all the rice fields in the village had survived the nasty tanuki's trick. The old man meditated while he rubbed the golden tassels between his fingers, but came up with no solution to their problem. He decided to return home. On his way back, though, as he came to pass the old persimmon tree, he noticed that it was laden with plump orange fruit. His wife, Old Lady Tora, adored persimmons. Surely she'd be happy to receive some of the tart treats. The rice farmer unshouldered his woven bamboo basket and began to pluck the ripe, dangling fruit when something smacked him hard on the head. Thunk. Ita! Old Man Saburo looked up to see a tanuki squatting on a branch, biting its knuckle to keep from laughing out loud. From the looks of the beast, it had not had a particularly easy life. Its fur was mangy and ill-colored, whiskers bent or snapped off entirely. Its right eye had an odd, angry squint, while its left ear looked as if a bite had been taken out of it. But truly, the animal's most startling feature was its grotesquely huge and sagging belly, so naked of fur that blue veins shone like spiderwebs through the pink skin. The animal noticed the old man's gaze and slowly scratched the area next to its protruding belly button. "Who are you? I've never seen you in these parts before," Old Man Saburo asked. The tanuki smiled, a yellow, greasy-toothed smile, making the old man's breakfast royal in his stomach. The animal then reached up, plucked a second persimmon, and without breaking eye contact with the rice farmer, took a big bite of the fruit before tossing it over his shoulder. "You." "Me," the animal announced proudly. The tanuki threw its head back and laughed, but the joy was short-lived. Happy in the village, Old Man Saburo was always patient and calm. Up until now, he never had the occasion to show that he actually had quite a short temper. Add to that he was also unusually spry for a man his age. Before the tanuki knew what had happened, it had been knocked off its perch and lay sprawled on the ground, trapped under a bamboo basket, the old rice farmer sitting on top, removing the rope he kept tied to his belt. "Oi, dashite yo! Let me out! Nani shiteru tsumori? What do you think you're doing?" the tanuki protested. Old Man Saburo didn't answer. He only thought to himself that he was a hero. A little while later, the old rice farmer double-looped another length of rope over a rafter in his living room. He then, with much effort, hoisted the smelly, foul-mouthed tanuki off the floor, and after tying and knotting it off, left the animal slowly spinning and swinging back and forth, upside down. "That is not a rabbit," his wife announced. Old Lady Tora didn't look up from her place on the floor, where she knelt in front of a pile of daikon, carefully using a knife to cut out the bite marks. "No, it isn't," her husband said. "It's the beast who defiled our crops. Whatever you do, don't untie him. I need to gather the others so we can decide what to do." He touched his wife lightly on the shoulder to make sure she understood. She nodded. As he turned to leave, he heard her mutter under her breath, "Soup." The old rice farmer chuckled at her response, thinking she was just as wise as she had always been, while the tanuki squirmed even harder. Let me down, I think I'm going to be sick." "Then you had better stop moving, hadn't you?" Old Man Saburo slid shut the door and hurried off. The tanuki took the rice farmer's advice and waited until he stopped swinging before speaking again. "Oh, that looks like hard work." "So desu ne," Old Lady Tora said. She didn't look up at the hanging beast. "I can help you, you know. I'm good at doing hard work. Look at my muscles." It was useless to try to flex in his position, but he felt his physique was obvious even without the posing. The old woman didn't look up. "Oh, I'm fine," she said. I'm very good at doing hard work too." The tanuki cursed so loud he put a little spin on the rope again. He was no fool. He only had a short time before the farmer returned with the others. He thought for a moment and then came up with a better plan. "You know, all I really wanted was a friend," the animal said seemingly to himself. "Maybe that's why I've always misbehaved. I've never had a real friend." This time the old woman looked up. "If only I had someone to believe in me, to trust me, then I might turn my life around." "I can believe in you," Old Lady Tora said, getting to her feet. No sooner had the rope been untied than the heavy tanuki plummeted to the floor, bounced once, tucked, rolled, reached over, grabbed a thick daikon, and with both hands bopped the old lady on the head. She collapsed, motionless. When Old Man Saburo returned with the rest of the villagers, they discovered the old woman unconscious on the floor, the tanuki missing. The old rice farmer wailed his lament and cradled his wife's head in his lap. He ran his hand through her long white hair and said over and over again, "Daijobu, daijobu. Everything is going to be okay." The villagers divided into two groups. One remained with Old Man Saburo to care for his injured wife. The other gathered farming tools and marched off to search for the vile tanuki who had done such a horrible thing and needed to be brought to justice. The rabbit, peering in through an open window, quietly slunk away, her own plan already formed in her little fuzzy head. The rabbit was quicker than the villagers and had a better sense of smell. She easily caught up with the tanuki lumbering along, panting and occasionally laughing wildly to himself. Quietly, the snow-white rabbit followed. She waited until the smelly beast tired and curled up under a bush to hide and rest. As soon as the rabbit heard the ugly animal's snores, she withdrew a rabbit-sized sickle from her rabbit belt and began hacking at the dry grass near the bush. The snores stopped, and the tanuki stuck his head out from the shrubbery. "Oi, you there, rabbit, what are you doing?" "Cutting grass. What does it look like?" "Oh, can't you see that I'm sleeping? Why do you need to cut this grass right here, right now?" The rabbit stopped her work and raised an eyebrow. She checked over both shoulders before hopping over. "It's a secret, but I'll tell you." The tanuki crawled out from his hiding place, intrigued. "There is a flock of birds just over this mountain. Special birds." The rabbit pointed. "They are looking for grasses to make their nests, and they told me they'd trade chestnuts if I bring them some. The more grass, the more nuts." Now, one of the tanuki's favorite pastimes was eating, and he especially loved chestnuts. Only they were a rare treat because it was nearly impossible for his fat little paws to get past the spiny shells. The tanuki was mulling this over when the rabbit guessed at his thoughts and in an even more hushed and secretive voice continued, "These birds, they are so special that they have long, thick beaks and clever claws. They promise to remove the tasty meats from the prickly burrs before we trade." That was it. The tanuki was sold. He snatched the sickle from the rabbit's paw. "Let me help. I'm bigger than you and I have more muscles too. I can harvest more and carry more." The rabbit scratched her chin. The tanuki was indeed bigger, but all that girth didn't look like muscles to her. "Iyo, it's a deal," she said, and let the tanuki hack away at the dry grass while she wove a nice big basket in the shade. It wasn't long before the two stuffed the basket full of grass and the rabbit was strapping it onto the tanuki's back. "I've done most of the work," the tanuki said, belly rumbling at the thought of all the chestnuts he would soon be devouring. "I've gotten myself up quite an appetite too. I think I probably deserve most of the nuts." "Iyo, I'm small and I don't need so many. 1 or 2 will do." "Oh, それはよかった." The tanuki chuckled at his good luck. Ja, ikimashou. The two hiked up the steep mountain, the tanuki in the lead, the rabbit close behind. While the tanuki was prattling on about how many chestnuts he could fit in his cheeks, the rabbit withdrew a flint and stone from the pocket on her rabbit belt, and without the tanuki seeing, struck it once, sending a spark into the dry grass on the larger creature's back. Within seconds, a small fire started. It crackled. Kachi, kachi, kachi. Oh, that's strange, the tanuki said. What's that noise? It sounds like kachi kachi. I think it's been following us too. Ah, are? That's the cry of the special birds. They're called Kachi Kachi birds. This is Kachi Kachi Mountain. That made perfect sense to the tanuki, so he continued his trek up the mountain, not the least bit curious about locating one of those special and obscure birds that were supposedly following so close behind. After a little while longer, the tanuki began getting hot as the fire on his back grew. Soon he flapped out his tongue and began panting with vigor. Do you smell that? It smells like something's burning. Are? That's the smell of the Kachi Kachi birds' nests. We're getting close. It was true. They were almost to the top of the mountain. It was when they reached the peak, though, that the fire on the tanuki's back grew so large it engulfed the basket. The tanuki cried out, Whoa, I've been bitten. That must be a Kachi Kachi bird, the rabbit said. Kachi Kachi birds don't like mean prankster tanukis who hurt little old women. It was then the tanuki realized his fur was on fire. He threw off the quickly disappearing basket and rolled in the dirt to extinguish the flames. He rolled and rolled along the trail and all the way down the mountain, his rotundness adding to the speed and the comedy of his escape. The rabbit laughed and chased after him the whole way. When the tanuki came to a stop at the bottom of the mountain, he howled and scampered off to lick his wounds and think about what he had done. He found a hollow in a large tree near the lake. The rabbit, being quick and clever, followed, of course, but was careful not to be seen. The pink-nosed fluffball's plan wasn't finished yet. The day after the Kachi Kachi Mountain incident, the tanuki poked his head from his hole and gasped, the strength draining from his plump little legs. There, on the other side of the small lake, the same unpleasant rabbit hurriedly hopped this way and that, into the forest and back, doing something. The tanuki watched for hours as his fluffy white nemesis continued her work with such single-minded intent that she seemed oblivious to the fact that she was being spied on. The tanuki was no fool. He was livid and he didn't easily forget. All he needed was a few days to heal up before he could exact his revenge on the long-eared monster. And so, the pitiful, near-bald, and horribly scarred tanuki spent the next week soaking in the cool water, rubbing lake slime all over his body, and observing the mysterious comings and goings across the lake. On day 8, he woke to see that the rabbit had just completed building a small boat. Interesting. On the 9th day, while the tanuki continued his bathing and slime rubs, he also added stretches and squats to his daily regimen. Slowly, he regained his health and his strength. It was at the end of week 2, when the tanuki finally felt ready to pay his furry little adversary a visit, that he noticed a second boat sat alongside the first. This one, though, was bigger and much more durable looking than the first. Very interesting. The time had come. With a rage-filled heart, the tanuki scamper-limped around the lake to confront his enemy. You, the tanuki said, pointing at the rabbit. Me? Yes, you. Look what you did to me. Did what? The rabbit was playing dumb. The tanuki pointed at the still fresh burn scars. Over on Kachi Kachi Mountain, you set me on fire. I'm afraid I don't know what you're talking about. The mountain rabbit lives on Kachi Kachi Mountain. I'm the lake rabbit. The tanuki cocked his head. and then he cocked it the other way, thinking. "It's true," the rabbit continued. "We do all look alike, you know." "Oh." The tanuki's anger quickly melted and was replaced by mischievous curiosity. "So what are you doing here?" "I made these boats. I heard there are hundreds and hundreds of delicious fish swimming in the middle of this lake, just waiting to be eaten." The tanuki's one good ear and one bitten ear pricked up. His stomach growled audibly. "Oh, I love fish. I see you have 2 boats. Are you expecting a friend?" "Well, yes, actually, but they haven't arrived yet." The rabbit glanced at the sun already on its downward descent. "I've got an idea," the tanuki said, rubbing his little grubby paws together. "It's going to be dark soon. How about we each take a boat out and catch as many fish as we can? When your friend arrives, we can welcome them with a fire and the mouth-watering scent of fish roasting until their skin turns crisp and splits open and the juices run out popping and sizzling in the fire." The tanuki wiped away a line of drool from his mouth. The rabbit nodded her adorable little head as if this was the best idea she'd ever heard. The whole time the tanuki was making his persuasive speech, he never once considered it strange that rabbits, as a general rule, don't eat fish. "Iyo, it's a deal," the rabbit said. "But since I'm the one who built the boats, I want to take the big, strong clay one." "Oh, but look at these muscles." The tanuki flexed a pitiful bicep. "Let me do most of the work. You've spent days building these. Why don't I take the bigger boat? I'll fill it to the brim with fish." The tanuki was no fool. It would indeed fill the boat with fish, but then he would use his superior muscles and paddle to the other side of the lake and gorge on them all by himself. "Okay," the rabbit said. "You convinced me." They pushed the boats into the water. The rabbit jumped into the little wooden one while the tanuki climbed into the larger clay boat. After rowing toward the middle of the lake, they both reached down to grab a net to cast. It was then that the tanuki realized that something was wrong. He was ankle deep in water. The boat was not only sinking, but it was disintegrating under his paws. "Oi!" The bald, big-bellied animal looked up to see the fur ball with ears giggling and rowing back to the shore. "Oi, oi, I'm sinking and I can't swim." The hull of the rabbit's boat slid into the sandy shore. The animal hopped out and bounced over to greet her friend. No, friends. The tanuki immediately identified the old rice farmer who had strung him upside down from a wooden beam. But there, standing beside him, almost unrecognizable, was his wife, Old Lady Tora, the one he'd bonked on the head and left for dead. She looked different than when he'd last seen her, younger. Her wild white hair was tamed under many boxwood and tortoiseshell combs. Her crimson and gold kimono, while not new, looked neat and was made from a fine silk. The old woman was smiling and looked, for lack of a better word, genuinely happy. She caught sight of the tanuki and began waving excitedly. She was saying something. It was hard to hear with the lapping water in the bottom of the boat. The tanuki was now submerged to his knees, his waist, his chest. Before he went under completely, he keened his ears to hear what she was saying. "Did you meet my friend, the bunny?" Old Lady Tora yelled. "I call her Usa-chan." That was the last thing the tanuki heard before the tips of his ears were swallowed up by the lake, and he sunk to the muddy bottom. The tanuki didn't stay under for long, however. His great big pink belly buoyed him, and he reappeared a few seconds later, fiercely tanuki paddling to a different shore. He dragged himself out of the lake and hobbled off. He looked back over his shoulder once and swore that he would never come this way again. He would never visit the village with no name, where everyone was happy and no one knew how hard life really was. The end. Thank you for listening. Oyasumi, and good night. Psst. Hey, do you like scary stories? Or maybe you don't do full-on horror, but enjoy a nice dark tale, something creepy involving Japanese folklore and superstition? Well, if that's the case, you can sneak on over to Amazon or wherever you like to buy books and look for my 2 short story collections, A Robe of Feathers and The Carp-Faced Boy. All you need to do is search for Teresa Matsuura. Let me spell that for you. TheresaMatsuura. Another place you can find me doing things is on Patreon. There, once a month, for my $5 and up patrons, I translate, retell, and record obscure Japanese folk tales. Some are dark, some are humorous, some are just weird. And lastly, another super sweet thing you can do is to write a review on iTunes. By doing this, you help like-minded people find Uncanny Japan. It's a little thing, but it means a lot, and it's a great big help. Thank you. I'm Teresa Matsuura, and I'll talk to you soon.